Hello and welcome to 5-inch Floppy on GameArena.com.au. This week we had the opportunity to check out Assassin's Creed 3. Bringing all the sneaking, shanking, and parkouring action to the new world, you'll accompany new hero Connor Kenway through 30 years of his life, parallel to the American Revolution.
Ah, bollocks! We're coming in!
The journey will take you through all new Assassin's gameplay, including Untamed Land and Untamed Seas. We first spoke to associate producer Julien Laferriere about bringing a historically rich franchise like Assassin's Creed to the new world.
So Assassin's Creed 3 is all about the new hero, Connor, who's half native, half English, and the American Revolution as a backdrop, and we're telling the story of Connor within a 30-year period. So it's before, during, and after the American Revolution. So obviously you'll get to live some of the key moments of the American Revolution, but the story is really about Connor and his conflict versus the Templars. Obviously, Assassin's Creed is about cities, so this time around we have Boston and New York. We had pretty accurate maps of the cities at the time, which are pretty different than the cities we know today, but there's still some famous landmarks in each of the cities. The great thing about the American Revolution is that there's a lot of documentation available. There's a lot of historical documents that we can find and use. We have a full-time historian working with us on staff. We also have accurate documents on all the major historical figures. So it's it's a very detailed moment of history, so we have a lot of things to work with.
First, we make our way to Nathaniel Bradley's house to fetch the rest of our little group. Then it's on to Griffin's Wharf, where we board the ships and dump the tea. Simple as that.
Simple scene.
Each person that you meet now is going to be a much more personalized human being. It could be a girl or a guy that was spawned in a given place, and like they wouldn't have like any personality. It was just like a generically spawned human being. And in our case, like they're all specific, so they all have names, they all have characters, they all have backgrounds.
You stride into my bar off the piss and looking for officers. Days later, I start hearing whispers the ghost of the North Seas stalks the Atlantic again.
Well, the great thing is that in this game, like 80% of all the characters in the game are actual historical figures, that people that actually existed, that if you look up in Wikipedia, you can find all their history, and so it's both, like you said, it's both a curse and a blessing. So we have all this information, but we have to make sure that we're historically accurate, because there's more and more references that people can find and look into.
With that historical accuracy in mind, the War for Independence can't be represented on an open battlefield. A crucial aspect of the war was guerrilla warfare, bringing the Redcoats out of the city and into the forest.
We had to revise basically our whole design strategy. So instead of building grids and building avenues, we started by how do we want the forest to feel and look. So more of an artistic perspective on it, if you want. So we placed trees a bit randomly, tried to see how they would feel, and then level designers built some paths in the trees to make sure that you can navigate easily. And you mentioned things about this sort of code, if you want, that we have in the cities. For example, if you see a white sheet over a box in Assassin's Creed in a city, you know that it's a free running starter, and that you'll have eventually like poles and planks that you can free run on. So we want to have that same sort of relationship with the player in the forest. So obviously at first it's going to be new, but soon after playing the game for a few minutes, a few hours, you'll find that these codes exist in the forest as well. So we have, instead of white sheets, it might be a huge rock at an angle. We have like broken down trees and little branches that stand out, so that you can grab. And you'll find after a while you'll start reading the forest like you've been reading the cities.
Mission designer Philippe Bergeron was able to tell us more about what that means in terms of gameplay.
Yeah, so like the forest, basically, like what it gives us is like an opportunity to like take all the crowd away in a sense, and it makes it like for that like solitary experiment. So imagine like, you know, when you're a kid and you just go out in the forest, and like it's like it has that eerie feeling, but also like really cool because like you're alone in there and like you're mastering the environment. So we have way more stealth opportunities in there. Like we added the stalking zones that you can just like move around in a hidden area. When you're in the tree canopy, you're considered hidden as well. So if you're free running in the branches above an enemy patrol, they won't see you at all. So you can actually do like that sort of like eat the tail off the snake gameplay of like taking the last guy out of the chain, then boom, 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 like eating up the snake tail environment, where when you're in a tree canopy, you're totally like unseen, and you can just like take off a guy, hang him, and then move forwards, and like everybody reacts to the dead body, but they don't know where it came from. So it has that sort of like the Predator movie feeling to it, where like when Arnold is like looking and like he's trying to find like the Predator, and like he just can't find him, like you are the Predator in this case. So it's pretty cool.
Being the Predator sounds cool, but our main criticism all throughout the Assassin's Creed franchise has been that despite an emphasis on stealth, the ease of combat gives you no reason to be stealthy. As cool as stealth might look, here the path of least resistance is resistance. So is this something they've finally addressed, or is the aim to keep combat accessible?
I would say like this time around, like we did like, that's probably one of the areas of the game that we improved a lot on, like the most on, is like fight. Because in the past, yeah, like Ezio could go up against like 20 guys, and it was not necessarily like a hard thing to do. You still felt like a badass, but it was like you were killing 20 guys. So if you're trying to do like a mission where like the general idea is to be stealthy, and you can kill 20 people, then like it just defeats the purpose, right? So we actually beefed up the fight to be way harder. So your average fight is now like you can support 5 to 6 guys, and anything beyond that, like only a hardcore player can sort of support. The casual player like is really more inclined to run away. And we also added the modification to the notoriety system, where like the more people or the more fights you get in, the more people you kill. Instead of being like a binary system where it's like on or off, now you actually have like a level. So the higher level you are, like the more intense guards are towards you, and at the highest level we actually spawn a new enemy type that comes at you, and which are the Jaegers, and those are like basically our ultimate badasses. That like when you get a fight against one guy, it's pretty hard. 2 guys, like it's recommended to sort of run away. Like it's really hard to fight off 2 Jaegers. So that's sort of how we cater to that. So I think for the hardcore player this time around, they should get like a much harder challenge when it comes to fighting.
Connor!
But we do have just like NPCs that can run away, and then like they'll get the attention of guards. And we have a new archetype, so a new enemy type, that is the Snitch. So that's like in the time period, it was like the drummer boys, the musicians that would basically, like in our game, what they would do is like they play drums, and if they do see you, they like panic, run away, and if you don't intercept them, they'll like summon, in a sentence, a squad of guards that come and assault you. So we did support that in a sense, and like added a layer of difficulty associated with that.
Combat has been just one crystallization of Assassin's Creed's philosophy of minimal effort for maximum reward. Elsewhere, it can be seen in the one-button climbing, giving orders to shipmates with a single button, to our favorite of all, the assassinations by your Brotherhood. A recent addition to the franchise, just one button will signal a comrade to pop out of a haystack or off a roof to do your dirty work. This is probably the best example of Assassin's Creed's philosophy, because here just one button implies all the planning that would go into a stealthy strike. In Assassin's Creed 3, your peers are fewer in number, but each will have their own story and skills. You can use them in distractions and ruses, and ordering them to assassinate targets is integrated into the story.
Bloody hell are you?
We've dented the new content in Assassin's Creed 3 on this episode of the Floppy, but far from covered at all. More additions to the ecosystem around you, new types of gameplay, and multiplayer all make this one incredibly ambitious title, and one of our most anticipated this year. That's all for this week on the Floppy. See you next week, same time, same place.